night's rest, we never seemed to rest. 1,000 restless thoughts moving like storms across my mind. Even in silent rooms, my soul felt loud with worry, as if peace was something distant, something I could not find. I carried invisible weight, smiling through conversations, pretending strength I no longer felt within. Every night became a quest, every prayer felt unfinished, every breath a fragile effort to simply hold it in. But somewhere in the stillness, somewhere between exhaustion and surrender, my heart slowly discovered what it had been searching for. When my heart grew light, I felt your presence near. Not in thunder, not in fire, but softer than my fear. When my heart grew quiet, the weight began to fall. Peace did not arrive loudly, it barely spoke at all. I spent so long resisting silence, filling every empty space, running from the quiet like it carried something dark. But the noise I feared outside was nothing like the chaos that had been living quietly inside my weary heart. The world told me to keep moving, to drown my doubts in motion, to never stop long enough to feel what I was hiding deep. But exhaustion became my teacher, and weakness turned to wisdom, and stillness gently led me to the peace I could not keep, because healing did not rush me. It waited patiently, like mercy sitting quietly beside my trembling soul. When my heart grows quiet, your peace began to breathe, not removing every burden, but teaching me release. When my heart grew quiet, I felt my spirit rest, like gentle light unfolding inside my chest. There is a sacred kind of silence that the anxious mind resists, a holy kind of stillness where restless fear dissolves. Not emptiness, not absence, but presence without pressure, a quiet where the soul remembers it was never alone at all. Now I no longer chase the noise, no longer fear the night, no longer of faith by how loudly I can pray, because peace is not a battle and trust is not performance. Sometimes surrender is the doorway where grace chooses to stay. And even when my thoughts return, even when the worries whisper, I know where my refuge lives. I know where my spirit stands. When my heart grows quiet, I feel your mercy move, not forcing understanding, but healing what I prove. When my heart grows quiet, I finally understand. Peace was never missing, it was waiting for my hand. So if your mind feels restless, if your soul feels loud with pain, if silence feels uncomfortable, like something you avoid, stay there just a moment longer, because sometimes the greatest miracle is not a voice from heaven, but the moment your heart finally grows quiet. I spent so many nights trying to understand the silence, searching for reasons hidden somewhere in the dark. My mind became a battlefield of questions without ending. Every thought a restless echo moving through my heart. I asked for explanations, I pleaded for direction. I measured faith by the answers I could hear, but heaven remained quiet, and my strength grew tired, and I began to whisper everything I feared. I thought peace would come, wrapped in understanding, that clarity would heal the weight I carried deep. But wisdom came differently, soft and unexpected, like mercy meeting me when I could no longer seek. When I stopped chasing answers, the noise began to fade, not because the questions vanished, but because my heart had changed. When I stopped chasing answers, I felt your presence near. Peace did not explain my story, it simply stayed right here. Oh, there is an exhaustion only the searching soul can know. Weariness born from needing everything to make sense. I carried invisible tension, a quiet kind of pressure, waiting for certainty, as if it were my defense. But answers never came like I imagined. They did not fall like sudden light. They did not erase the shadows or untangle every fear inside. Instead, something gentler found me, something quieter, deeper, true. Not a solution to my questions, but a stillness that carried me through. When I stopped chasing answers, my breathing slowly changed. The weight I held so tightly no longer felt the same. When I stopped chasing answers, your peace began to rise, not speaking through explanation, but calming what lived inside. Maybe faith was never meant to eliminate uncertainty. Maybe trust was never built on knowing every why. Maybe grace moves strongest in the spaces we resist, where surrender meets the silence and restless fears untied. Now I no longer beg for clarity, no longer fight the unknown, because peace is not discovered by forcing truth to appear. It grows quietly within us when resistance softens, when striving gives way to presence over fear. Some nights still carry questions, some prayers still feel incomplete, but they no longer steal my stillness, they no longer shake my peace. Because I learned something sacred, the weary heart must see. Not every silence is absence, not every mystery needs release. Sometimes the answer is not knowledge, sometimes the answer is peace. When I stop chasing answers, I finally understood you were never hiding from me. I was running from the quiet you stood, and in the stillness of surrender, where striving lost its claim, I did not find explanation. I found your peace again. There was a night when I stopped fighting the silence, when the noise inside me finally grew too tired to scream. No great revelation, no sudden burst of clarity, just a weary soul sitting quietly with its own ache. I had spent so long resisting the stillness, mistaking quiet for emptiness, believing peace would only come through movement, through change, through escape. But exhaustion has a strange wisdom. It gently removes our illusions. It teaches surrender where strength could not. When the quiet healed something in me, nothing dramatic appeared. No thunder split the heavens, no voice echoed clear. When the quiet healed healed something in me, the night remained the same. But deep within my restless heart, something no longer aches. I listen to my breathing as if it were a fragile prayer, slow, uneven, human, real. Every thought passed like a shadow, every memory rose and faded without demanding explanation. For the first time, I did not chase understanding. I did not wrestle with the unknown. I simply stayed, and staying felt unfamiliar, almost frightening. But then something softened, not my circumstances, not my past, not the unanswered questions, but the tension, the resistance, the invisible weight I had carried for so long. I no longer noticed it was there. When the quiet healed something in me, the pressure began to relieve. Not because the pain had vanished, but because my soul found peace. When the quiet healed something in me, my fears grew strangely still, like waves that lose their violence when the wind forgets its will. Maybe healing is not always correction. Maybe grace is not always change. Maybe God moves most gently where striving loosens its claim. I realized I had been waiting for life to rearrange itself before allowing myself to rest. Waiting for certainty, waiting for relief, waiting for proof that peace was justified. But peace does not negotiate with condition. It does not demand resolution. It arrives quietly like light entering a room that was never truly dark. The quiet was never my enemy. It was never a void. It was never abandonment. It was a sanctuary I did not know how to enter. Until now, when the quiet healed something in me, I finally saw the truth. Not every wound needs an answer. Not every storm needs to cease. Some healings happen silently when the soul remembers how to breathe in peace. There comes a moment no one prepares you for, when even your own reflection feels like a quiet accusation. Not because you failed the world, Not because you lost your way, but because you're tired of pretending you're not tired. I carried strength like armor, wore resilience like identity. I learned how to smile through weight, how to speak without revealing the fracture. To the world, I was steady. To others, I was composed. But inside, something was slowly collapsing without noise. When I could no longer pretend, I was strong. The silence grew painfully clear. No crowd, no applause, no disguise, just truth standing near. When I could no longer pretend I was strong, my defenses fell apart. And there beneath the fragile surface, you met my unguarded heart. Strength is praised until it becomes a prison, denied until it becomes an expectation, expected, until it becomes exhaustion. No one notices the cost of always appearing unshaken. No one sees how heavy it becomes to never collapse. But you saw, you always saw. Even when my prayers sounded confident, even when my words carried certainty, even when my voice remained steady, you heard the trembling I tried to hide. When I could no longer pretend I was strong, my breathing lost its disguise. Every fear I buried deep inside rose gently to the surface of my eyes. When I could no longer pretend I was strong, the weight I carried cracked, not destroying me in violence, but opening something I never knew. Because weakness has a strange holiness. We spend our lives resisting. There is a sacred honesty in reaching the edge of endurance, a quiet dignity in admitting the soul is tired. Not dramatic, not loud, just human. And in that fragile confession, I did not find judgment, I did not find disappointment, I did not find distance. I found mercy. Worth by endurance, never demanding unbreakable. were simply waiting for the moment I stopped hiding behind strings, when I could no longer pretend I was strong. Your peace entered slowly deep, not fixing everything I carry, but allowing my soul to finally rest and breathe. Pretend I was strong. Your peace entered slowly deep, not fixing everything I carried, but allowing my soul to finally rest and breathe. My mind had become a restless room, filled with unfinished thoughts. Every memory replayed, every fear rehearsing, every silence misunderstood. There is a voice that never touches leaves, yet exhausts the soul completely. A quiet storm that never stops moving, never stops speaking, never stops questioning. I try to outthink the tension, try to reason with the anxiety, try to silence the noise with more noise. But peace cannot be forced. Peace is allowed. When my mind finally grew quiet, nothing outside had changed. The night was still heavy, the world still the same. When my mind finally grew quiet, the pressure began to release. Not because the thoughts had vanished, but because I stopped fighting for peace. Still came, but they no longer ruled me. surfaced, but they no longer define me. Fear still whispered, but it no longer convinced me, because something deeper had taken its place. A stillness not born from certainty, a calm not built on control, a silence that did not feel empty, but safe. When my mind finally grew quiet, I breathe and changed its rhythm. The weight I carried endlessly no longer felt like a prison. When my mind finally grew quiet, I felt your presence near, not loud, not overwhelming, just steady, calm, clear. There is a sacred kind of quiet only surrender can create. I realized I had spent years trying to manage the mind instead of resting the soul, trying to fix every thought, trying to resolve every fear, trying to understand every emotion. But peace is not intellectual, peace is relational. And in the stillness of the night, where striving lost its urgency, my mind did not collapse, it softened. When my mind finally grew quiet, I did not become fearless, I became still. When my mind finally grew quiet, I did not gain all the answers, I gained space to breathe, because sometimes healing is not the removal of thoughts, but the arrival of peace stronger than them For so long I believe peace had condition, the calm required certainty, rest demanded revolution. I told myself I would breathe easier when life became clearer, when pain made sense, when questions were answered. But clarity never came as promised. Understanding never arrived on schedule, and still something unexpected happened. Peace found me without shame. When peace no longer needed a reason, the silence felt strangely kind. No answers fell from heaven, yet relief filled my mind. When peace no longer needed a reason, the tension lost its claim. Nothing outside it shifted, yet nothing felt the same. negotiating with the night. Stop demanding explanations from the dark. Stop measuring faith by emotional evidence. And slowly the storm inside me lost its urgency. Not defeated, not erased, but quiet. Because peace does not argue with chaos, it simply outlasts it. When peace no longer needed a reason, my fears begin to breathe. Not vanishing in drama, but loosening quietly within me. When peace no longer needed a reason, my soul released its fight. Not because the road grew gentle, but because calm replaced the night. Maybe peace was never the reward. Maybe peace was always the invitation. There is a sacred freedom in no longer needing everything to make sense, in allowing stillness without demanding guarantees, in trusting presence without requiring proof. Because some forms of grace do not explain life, they steady it. When peace no longer needed a reason, I finally understood. Peace is not born from answers. Peace is not built on outcomes. Peace is not dependent on clarity. Peace is born when the soul stops resisting rest. And in that quiet surrender, nothing was explained. Yet everything was healed enough to breathe again.